Hello, welcome back. This is your lead instructor, Gennaro here, CEO of Cortex Solutions, and we're going to be talking about Zero Trust Architecture, brought to you by ACSMI. Well, let's get started. Now, when it comes to Zero Trust, we talked about this before, but keep in mind, the use case of it is basically saying, well, we're not just going to trust everyone on our network. With good reason, though, because you never know. Any user, any input could be malicious. So there's been a rapid growth in regards to what cybersecurity is, how our era is now in regards to bringing in more and more technology. So we have to do more and more safeguarding. The traditional models, they relied on the castle and the moat approach, trusting users once they're inside the network. But this is no longer effective because, as we know, insider threats, right? Insider risk, credential compromises, they still happen. Now, this is where Zero Trust Architecture comes in. Now, this assumes that every internal or external user or device, it could be a potential threat until proven otherwise. That's the trust but verify. Now, we want to be able to understand that one of the core principles is only authenticated and authorized users, and they have to be validated, and it must be on a need to know or a least privileged basis too. So think about it like this. Employees in the marketing team, they can access campaign-related files, but they can't view transactional or financial spreadsheets from HR. See, there's a reason for that. That's segmentation. Now, the trust by verification is, all the activity, regardless of where it came from, regardless of what user, whether it's remote or on-prem, this is going to be subject to monitoring and logging. Credentials are very important. And one of the key factors of understanding that, hey, if a credential is compromised, that can be really bad, especially if they have admin level permissions. Because think about it in terms of, if that's compromised, then you run the risk of it being, a bad day for the organization. So it's necessary for us to ensure that if we are going to bring devices into work, if we are going to allow users to access our systems, then we need to be sure that we're running all the necessary precautions that we need and we're following our Zero Trust architecture, and those core principles are sound, like least privilege, the micro-segmentation. What we're saying here is that the networks, they're just divided, they're just more smaller. We have isolated zones. It's going to prevent attackers from moving laterally, like we talked about in some of our examples before. Now, even if a breach itself is done, it's less likely that they will attack system A over in the other network. And continuous monitoring and analytics is another piece to it, right? We're not just saying we're just going to trust it, and it's not just a one-time process, but we're ongoing. We're continually monitoring the system to ensure that, we make it known that our devices and our users are always validated, verified each time. Combining that with multi-factor authentication, those one-time passwords, biometrics, and then adding on the other layer of access management, but from a privileged standpoint, being able to secure that. So administrative accounts, they're always targeted, always, because they have the keys to the kingdom. So Zero Trust is going to enforce the use of privileged access management. Now, this is going to include session monitoring, logging, and then making sure those permissions are actively looked at. Now let's talk about the ecosystem and technologies that are currently utilized. we've talked about this before, having advanced firewalls as well, endpoint detection and response. These are all tools that you can use now, and it is effective. Because having a unsecured network just leaves open all the different doors to all types of things to, bring it down, bring that network down, compromise that user, bring on insider threats, and we really don't want that. So securing remote workforce connection is one of our examples here. So a user works remotely from public networks. Okay. Now that can provide or pose a significant risk. So Zero Trust comes in and says, we have VPNs, we have multi-factor authentication, we have health checks that are computers and devices and what they run through. So the scenario is going to be a remote marketing manager at a cafe logs into a corporate system through a secure VPN. Unhealthy devices are rejected until updated, which is good. We want to make sure that that device has all the necessary updates that it needs. We want to ensure that Well, we're taking all the precautions, because think about it like this. If we do not do that, we're allowing potential attackers to get access to our network. And that's not very wise if we're looking at from the zero trust architecture. That's not wise if we're looking at it from the zero trust architecture. So we have to be sure and confident that our users are trained very well in this aspect and that we employ our safeguards. It's been great. Gennaro here, CEO of Cortex Solutions, and we just talked about zero trust architecture, brought to you by ACSMI. Hope you have a great one. Take care.